Good morning. Start your day informed and ahead. Today is Monday, the 8th of June. I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro.
And I'm Cheska Lituncala. We are bringing you the perfect mix of the headlines you need and the conversations that shape your day.
From the news desk to the digital space, we have got you covered. I'm Pauline Verzosa, and welcome to Morning Matters.
A magnitude 7 earthquake struck offshore of Sarangani today at 7:37 a.m. according to PHIVOX. The quake was recorded at a shallow depth of mga ganitong tsunami warnings ay na-advise yung lahat ng mga nearby residents doon sa coastal area ay mag-evacuate na because they wouldn't know kung kailan mag-strike yun. So as much as possible, doon tayo sa safe side. Kasi if you can remember before during the Yolanda, 'di ba nagkaroon ng tsunami, 'di ba? Hindi masyado na-inform yung mga tao. And at that time, yung mga tao hindi rin pa masyado maalam dun sa mga terminologies na katulad nito.
And just in PHIVOX has actually raised the magnitude already to 7.8. That's of course, the earthquake that happened at 7:37 this morning, and most of the affected areas include intensity 7 in city of Gensan. Nandiyan din po ang Sultan Kudarat. City of Davao was also affected. So as Angela mentioned, there is a tsunami warning, and it's important that residents in low-lying areas should prepare for any eventuality.
Right.
And I also read that apparently, the shallower the offshore earthquake is, the greater potential for a tsunami because it is closer to the seafloor, and therefore it's more likely that it will displace large amounts of water.
Right.
So in this case, 7.8 yung depth, yung magnitude, and the depth of it has 10 kilometers. So while a tsunami is not guaranteed, it's always better to stay prepared.
And yun na nga, the tsunami warning expected to experience wave heights of more than 1 meter above the normal tides and maybe higher on enclosed bays and straits. So that's over 3 feet.
And because this is of course nagkaroon muna ng earthquake in Mindanao. So ang na to kasi this is around Cotabato Trench dun sa malapit sa tubig kaya nagkaroon ng tsunami warning. And apparently this is also connected in Indonesia and Malaysia. So in Indonesia they also issued a tsunami warning as well. Now let's begin also with a continuing saga in the so-called Senate Flicks. The Senate Blue Ribbon Committee resumes its flood control hearing today, led by Senator Erwin Tulfo of the Gatchalian Bloc. The hearing comes after Tulfo apologized to the Cayetano Bloc and the public for threatening to have senators arrested if they hold what he called a fake blue ribbon hearing. Tulfo admitted his remarks were wrong, saying he was carried away by emotion. He also urged his colleagues to end the division and get back to work, but tensions remain high. The Cayetano Bloc maintains that Senator Alan Peter Cayetano is still the legitimate Senate President, while the Gatchalian Bloc insists the new leadership is valid. Cayetano says he is open to talks with Gatchalian to find a solution, and as lawmakers trade legal arguments and leadership claims, some netizens are fixated on a different kind of Senate tandem. The internet is now buzzing over Winry, the fan-made pairing of Senate President pro tempore Win Gatchalian and Senator Risa Ontiveros. It gained traction after supporters created online content highlighting their interactions and collaborations in the Senate. O buti na lang hindi nagkaroon ng tandem si Senator Bongo at saka si Senator Win Gatchalian. Kasi, tanong mo na bakit?
Sige, nakita na naman tayo eh. Okay.
Kasi pag naging tandem sila, bongga.
In honor of Diego.
Monday.
Pero well, kidding aside, so this morning, pag nagsimula na yung Senate Blue Ribbon Committee under the leadership of Senator Erwin Tulfo, I don't think we'll be expecting the 18 Marines or the 18 allegedly bagman ni former Speaker Martin Romualdez, because yesterday nga there are letters from the office of Senator Alan Peter Cayetano saying na there's no other authorized hearing na Blue Ribbon authorized by the office of Senator Pia Cayetano and Senator Rodante Marcoleta.
And even then, Palace Press Secretary Claire Castro already said, the Palace or the Executive, they won't recognize anyone else but the leadership of acting Senate President pro tempore, Sherwin Gatchalian. So if they want a special session, they should be the ones to coordinate with the president kasi nga sila yung nare-recognize.
So that's one thing we will also watch out for, right? Last week we were talking to Ronald Llamas and he said it's imperative that the executive Malacanang already called for a special session if they want to fix everything, all that is happening at the Senate. We know that there is a separation of powers, but what the faction here of Senator Sherwin Gatchalian is mulling is that to request nga for a special session to formalize his position as Senate President, especially if 1 to 2 more senators from the minority bloc would transfer to the majority. So that could happen today or this week. Of course, that's all in the air,
Yes.
all up in the air.
So they have yet to request a formal request for the president for that special session para nga daw talakayin itong mga nakabinbin na mga legislations na naantala because we are hitting actually first month of the Senate fiasco come June 11 by Thursday. So dapat talaga asikasuhin na nila to, tapusin na nila dahil otherwise, 'di ba, ang dami talagang trabaho na nabibinbin diyan.
So we're going to see also if how the Blue Ribbon Committee hearing on the flood control scandal will play out today under, of course, Senator Erwin Tulfo. Hindi pa na-confirm yung list of resource persons, but he did say they were going to invite the same people that were invited last week, including former Speaker Martin Romualdez. He didn't show up last week, so tingnan
We
natin
don't
kung
know also, no?
papakita siya today.
And he also invited everybody. Sabi niya, everybody is feel free to question in the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee that he is going to head today. So sabi niya, para wala nang so lumabas kayo dito. If you want to ask questions sa mga resource persons natin, go ahead. Sabi niya ganun. Pero the question here now is, will the Cayetano bloc attend? Diba? Will we see them? Of course, meron ng letter for the 18 Marines or 18. By the way, sabi nga pala ng AFP, they wanted to disassociate nga daw yung 18 Marines na pangalan. So parang sinasabi nila, hindi
dapat
kami
ang tawag?
connected dito sa mga 18 Marines na ito. So dapat hindi natin sila tinatawag na 18 Marines. Ang sabi ng AFP itself, So sabi nila, they could be called 18 individuals or 18 alleged pagman, yung mga ganyan. So we'll see what's going to happen today.
Marami tayong abangan, Monday pa lang. But in other news, it is back to school for many students. Around 26 million learners return to school today as classes for school year 2026-2027 officially begins. The opening of classes marks the implementation of the Department of Education's new 3-term academic calendar nationwide. And under the new setup, the first term will run until September 15, the second term from September 16 to December 18, and the third term from January 4 to April 8, 2027. DepEd said the 3-term structure was designed to spread learning periods more evenly and provide additional opportunities for student assessment and academic support. Meanwhile, the Philippine National Police has deployed more than 55,000 personnel to help ensure a safe and orderly return to school. All right, so for this school year, the DepEd estimates around 26 to 28 million learners for this school year, and that's a lot. Although one thing that hasn't changed, of course, is the classroom shortage. That is still a big problem in our education system. They said they already reduced the shortage from 165,000 to 140,000. But still, imagine 140,000 classrooms are still lacking.
But also, ang laki ng budget for DepEd, ha?
Yes.
They got
Always.
a 1.015
Trillion.
sa budget nila. So again, we are very familiar with the issue on the lack of classrooms. The teacher workload, it's not uncommon for teachers to shell out their own money. We've heard so many stories about teachers being the ones to buy the supplies for the students. Or
Chalk.
yung mga
Erasers.
Yung chalk, eraser.
Papers.
That is why yung Teachers Dignity Coalition is going to do a protest today. Tatapusin lang daw nila yung klase today, magpaalam sila sa school. They will march to Malacanang to state nga yung kanilang mga, of course, hinaing dito sa education system. Like what you said, yung classroom shortage, teacher workload, and most especially to raise their salary to add 15,000 more, to make it 50,000 a month. Because for them, talagang kulang na yung mga ginagastos nila. But this this 3-term na ini-introduce ngayon ng DepEd na masisimulan today, of course, sabi nila, they're saying that this will, deepen the learning capabilities of the students. But others are saying na medyo rushed itong program na ito, no? Others would say na, okay lang naman ito gawin, pero i-pilot lang muna natin sa iba't ibang mga schools, not all, para makita natin if there are other things that we need to adjust, then we do it. Pero wala tayong magagawa, it's here na. Ang sinasabi ng DepEd on their side naman, in their defense, na mas magkakaroon ng focus in basic education yung mga students, no? And administrative work ng mga teachers will be lessened as well, no? Instead of 4 quarters, maging 3 quarters na lang siya. Tapos, ang target nila is to, dapat 163 days talaga yung learning sessions nila. And then, of course, meron silang sinusundan yung aral program, which is yung, kumbaga, may mga estudyante na hindi masyado nakakasunod doon sa mga lessons for the day, pwede may mga remedial classes yun. So yun yung parang sinasabi ng DepEd that this will really help both the students and the teachers.
So we'll see, if this will really address the learning crisis that we are also facing. Remember last year, EDCOM released this report which said that a lot of students still don't know how to read and write after grade 3. And
Um,
even graduating senior high
even
school,
exactly.
yung functional literacy, sabi
The
nila. Go
reading
ahead.
comprehension is,
so let's see if this 3-term calendar could do well for the students.
All right, let's now head over to sports with Alex Ayala capturing another career milestone. The Filipino tennis star won the WTA 125 Birmingham Open title after outlasting Czech player Nikola Bartunkova in a 3-set thriller, 5-7, 6-3, 7-5. After dropping the first set, Ayala bounced back in the second and held her nerve in a tight decider to seal the championship. The win marks Ayala's second WTA 125 title following her breakthrough run in Guadalajara last year. Ayala says she is honored to lift the trophy in a tournament won by tennis greats like Billie Jean King, Maria Sharapova, and Ash Barty. She also thanked her Filipino supporters. Okay, so this is Alex's first championship of the year.
Woo!
And it is her first win over a Czech opponent on tour. So before this win, she was 0-12 against Czech rivals.
Oh, really?
Yes. And so for this win, she also received WTA ranking points. So ma-affect yung world ranking niya, aangat yan. And
Ngayon ba ilan na siya? Sorry. Pang ilan na ba siya before?
double check natin
37.
yan kasi hindi na ako
Kasi she's
sure.
in the top 50.
Basta, pasok na siya sa top
Tapos?
50. And then the prize money, $33,650 or in pesos,
peso.
hindi na siya times 50.
I know, times 60
times
na,
61. So around 2,079,000 plus.
Wow.
You know what I love
Congratulations
about
to Alex.
Alex Ayala is her humility.
Yes.
No, she
Yeah.
always acknowledges na nahihirapan siya, na magaling yung opponent niya, but at the
Yeah.
end, sa kanya pa rin yung ano. I love it.
And she never forgets to go back to her Filipino
Yeah.
roots. Did she speak in Filipino again after the match? But usually she does that,
She
right?
usually does. But also, yung touching on the humility part, even then, sinabi niya, just because she won this, doesn't mean she's one of the greats na.
Wow.
Oh, diba?
Very
Ay,
so-
napaka-humble. Dahil ang humble mo, mag-guest ka na sa amin, Alex.
She's ranked number 33 in the world right now. But
33.
who knows? She might make
Oo,
it to the
aakyat
top
pa yan.
25 after
Yes.
this win.
Pero she continues to break barriers, so hindi na tayo magugulat.
And some forget that she's still very young.
She's so
right?
young.
She's only
How old is she?
20. Is it
Early
20 years old?
20s.
You know, I first met Alex. She was just 15 or 16.
Wow,
So
that
imagine,
young?
Yeah, she was very young. She had so many goals, dreams. Of course, one is to win a Grand Slam. Hopefully, she gets to
Growing
do that.
leaps and bounds. All right, don't go away. Morning Matters will be back after a short break.
Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. The Blue Ribbon Committee continues its probe today into alleged flood control project anomalies under the chairmanship of Senator Erwin Tulfo. And now for the latest updates, let's bring in mobile journalist Merimon Reyes. Hi Merimon, kamusta na ang sitwasyon dyan sa Senado at sino ba yung mga naimbitahan na resource persons sa hearing today?
Pauline, good morning. 9 o'clock AM inaasahan yung pagsisimula ng Blue Ribbon Committee hearing pero sa pangunguna ito ni Senator Erwin Tulfo na last week nagkaroon ng balasahan dito sa Senado. So from Senator Pia Cayetano, si Senator Tulfo na ang manunungkulan bilang chairman ng Blue Ribbon Committee. And sa nakuha nating listahan, parte ng mga inimbitahan nila sila former House Speaker Martin Romualdez, yung mga kongresista, sila mga kongresista Zia Alonto Adyong, Congressman Jose Alvarez, Jam Barodna, and Congressman Leila de Lima. Parte rin ng mga inimbitahan ang mula sa gabinete, either si DPWA Secretary Vince Dizon o kaya naman representatives niya, si DOJ Acting Secretary Frederick Vida o kaya naman representative niya kasi may nakalista rin sila dito mga representatives, mga ASEC tulad ni Attorney Richard Anthony Fatulyon, for the DPWH si Yusek Ricardo Bernabe, mula naman sa DBM si Secretary Kim Robert De Leon o kaya naman may representative, plus Office of the Ombudsman si Ombudsman Remulla and si NBI Director Attorney Melvin Batibag na nabanggit last week doon sa quote-unquote ginawang hearing ng Blue Ribbon na pinangungunahan ni Senator Pia Cayetano at Senator Rodante Marcoleta na huling nabanggit na may impormasyon tungkol sa pagtanggap netong 18 individuals, allegedly yung mga bagman na nagpadala ng maletang may laman na kickback from flood control projects sa iba't ibang mga nakinabang dito na tumanggap daw ng pera kapalit ng kanilang pagsasalita sa pagdinig. Mabigat sa listahan o matimbang sa listahan itong 18 na mga individual na parte rin sa kabilang din sa mga inimbitahan ni Senator Tulfo. Yun nga lang nitong weekend, nagsulat kasi si Senator Alan Peter Cayetano kaya Attorney Levy Baligan, siya yung pinaka-legal counsel nitong individual na sinasabing hindi raw magagaranti yung proteksyon, yung safety nitong mga individual kung pupunta sila sa pagdinig ngayong araw, lalo't hindi raw ito official or authorized na Blue Ribbon Committee hearing. So kung sakaling hindi pupunta yung mga allegedly ay mga ex-marine, mauuwi lamang sa mga politiko, mauuwi lamang sa mga kongresista o kaya naman sa gabinete. Pati si Father Flavi, pupunta rin siya sa pagdinig ngayong araw. So yun yung isa sa mga inaabangan natin sa pagsisimula ng pagdinig. Pauline.
So Merimon, kung sakaling hindi dumalo ang 18 individuals o yung 18 ex-Marines, handa bang mag-cite in contempt si Senator Erwin Tulfo?
Parte yan kapag kasi inimbitahan, usually inaabangan din muna nila kung hanggang ilang beses aabutin yung kukuha invitation o kaya naman hindi sipot, hindi rin magpapaliwanag ng absence nila o yung pagpapaliwanag nila kung hindi sila makakapunta o makakapunta. So hindi malabo dahil sa mga lumipas na pagdinig na Blue Ribbon, yan ang mga nangyari. Either hindi malinaw sumagot, nakikita nilang posible nagsisinungaling or obvious na iniiwasan yung pagsagot ng maayos, maaari silang ma-cite for contempt. Pero to note din, si Curly Discaya, yung kontratista na huling nandito, kinuha na rin kanina umaga ng pulisya para naman pumunta sa isang regional trial court sa Bulacan. Kaya kung sakali man, kung may masasite for contempt dito, sila ulit ang pupuno sa custody area sa baba ng Senate building. Pauline.
Okay, and so far, Merimon, sino-sino na ang nandyan sa Senado today? And is there any indication na magpapakita ang faction, ang grupo ni na Senator Alan Peter Cayetano?
Pauline, ang sabi dito ni Senator Tulfo, actually noong una nga may pagte-threat si Senator Erwin na ipapa-aresto raw itong mga senador na mag-hold ng hindi otorisado or hindi opisyal na pagdinig. Pero humingi rin siya ng dispensa, humingi rin siya ng tawad dito sa Cayetano-led bloc dahil out of frustration din daw yun at iniimbitahan niya rin itong mga senador ng new minority sa kasulukuyan na pumunta rin sa pagdinig. Pero so far, sa pagsisilip kasi natin sa session hall, nakikita pa lang natin naghahanda yung mga staff, inaayos nila yung venue, plus yung mga kasama rin natin sa media at yung staff din mismo ng Senate Secretariat Office. So abangan muna natin mamayang alas 9 talaga ng umaga. Pero kung pagdating kay former House Speaker Martin Romualdez, tinatanong din natin kung may confirmation na ba on his end. So far, wala pa. And plus, yung iba pang mga kongresista, titingnan muna natin. Pero so far, sa mga nakakasalubong natin dito, hindi pa natin sila nakakagilap. Pauline.
Okay, and Merimon, ano naman yung magiging pinaka-main focus ng Blue Ribbon Committee hearing under Senator Erwin Tulfo today?
Yun nga, Pauline, ito sanang presensya ng 18 na ex-Marines or allegedly yung mga individual nga na nagpapadala ng kickbacks from flood control projects, sila yung pinakamalaman. Dahil nga, actually, sabi pa nga ni Senator Tulfo last week, titignan mo na raw nila kasi baka mag-forum shopping lang etong mga individual, lalo't yung mga testimonya nila, either kulang-kulang o baka questionable pa, pero he decided din na imbitahan na etong mga individual sa pagdinig ngayong araw. So doon, though wala pang nasasabi na in specific yung aatakihin nila, pero magpapatuloy ito ng legislative inquiry ng Senado sa maanumalyang flood control scandal. At kung dumating man itong 18 individuals, maaari hungkatin din nila yung nilalaman ng affidavit nila o kaya naman yung testimonya nitong mga ito. Dahil nabanggit din last week yung pangalan ng ilang mga senador, si Senator Vito Soto, si Senator Erwin Tulfo mismo, si Senator Ping Lacson, pero hindi nabanggit yung pangalan nila Senator Lauren Legarda, pati Mark Villar na bahagi ng kanilang affidavit. So maraming maaaring mangyari talaga sa araw na ito. Pauline.
All right, thank you very much for that report. That was mobile journalist Merimon Reyes reporting live from the Senate. The Philippine Marine Corps has distanced itself from 18 individuals who identified themselves as former Marines and attended a Senate hearing on alleged irregularities in flood control projects. In a statement, the PMC expressed disappointment over the involvement of the group. It emphasized that the individuals acted on their own and did not represent the organization in any capacity. Earlier, the Armed Forces of the Philippines clarified that those who attended the hearing were no longer in active service, while some were not even former members of the PMC at all. And in other news, 3 Filipino workers were wounded in a reported drone strike at Kuwait International Airport. According to Kuwaiti state media, the June 3rd attack killed 1 Indian national and injured more than 60 others. The Department of Migrant Workers says 2 of the injured OFWs were treated for smoke inhalation, while another needed stitches for hand and head wounds. DMW Secretary Hans Leo Kakdak says the agency is monitoring the situation. Filipinos in Kuwait are advised to stay indoors and to avoid unnecessary travel. Kuwait has blamed Iran for the attack, but Iran's Revolutionary Guard denies targeting the airport. Now, classes are back in full swing as students return for the opening of the school year. And now let's get the latest situation in Pasig City with mobile journalist Daniel Dayaw. Good morning, Daniel. Kumusta na ang sitwasyon dyan?
Good morning, Pauline. Balik eskwela na nga ang mga estudyante dito sa Pasig Central Elementary School at kanina lang ay naganap na ang kanilang first flag ceremony for the school year 2026 to 2027. So sa ngayon, kung makikita mo sa akin likuran, nag-start na ang kanilang operational block. So ano ba yung operational block na ito? Ito daw yung way para ma-orient yung mga bata, magkaroon ng instruction, campus tour, at ang pinakamahalaga daw ay yung mga pag-conduct ng assessment. So kasama dyan ang pre-assessment sa iba't ibang subjects, math rapid assessment, oral program, at Carla assessment o ang comprehensive reading and literacy assessment. This is actually in line with the order number 009. So ito nga yung tinataang pilot implementation kung saan hahatiin sa 3 semester yung klase. So ibig sabihin ngayong June 1 to September ang first term, September to December ang second term, at ang third term naman ay January to April. So bawat term daw magkakaroon ng instructional block. Ito daw yung patuloy na pag-aaral ng mga bata at pagkatuto. At dun naman sa transition per sem ay magkakaroon ng tinatawag na enrichment block. Ito yung remediation or computation of grades as well as wellness break for both teachers and students. So sa ngayon, Pauline, as of now, 4,000 students daw ang naka-enroll dito sa Pasig Central Elementary School. Pero of course, hindi pa yan final dahil inaasahan pa rin ang late enrollees. Pauline.
And Daniel, going back dun sa 3-term calendar, ano naman yung naging reaksyon ng mga estudyante tungkol dito? Kahit yung kanilang mga magulang, are they open to this or may onting hesitation din patungkol dito sa bagong 3-term calendar?
Yes, Pauline, alam mo, nakausap ko dyan si Principal Marife Villadiego at ang sabi nga niya, yung mga mostly sa mga magulang ay hindi pa nai-internalize itong 3-term school calendar natin. Pati na rin yung mga bata kaya nga nagkakaroon din ng orientation as of now, which is the opening block nga. Pero inaasahan naman nila na so far, ito naman daw ay adjustment period and magkakaroon din naman daw ng magandang feedback and magmamaterialize ang DepEd Order number 009, Pauline.
And sa parte ng mga teachers, how are they preparing para dito sa panibagong three-term calendar?
Alam mo, Pauline, nakausap ko naman si Teacher Gray or Teacher Cruz kanina at ang sabi naman niya is yun nga, may mga gray areas lang nakikita. As of now, patuloy pa rin ang preparation pero lahat naman daw ay nandun pa rin sa adjustment period, Pauline.
And pagdating naman sa mga classrooms dyan sa Pasig Elementary School, kamusta naman ang sitwasyon? Daniel, sapat ba ang bilang ng mga classrooms para sa mga estudyante?
Alam mo, Pauline, isa nga yun sa naging issue dito or isang pinag-uusapan dito sa Pasig Central Elementary School. Kasi as of now, kung makikita mo, yung building dito is for retrofitting. So, as of now, yung mga estudyante dito from kindergarten to grade 6 ay nagsisiksikan dito sa Pasig Central Elementary School na building, which is yung Soledad building nga. So, isa yun sa mga naging concern ng magulang kasi yung grade 2 students nila ay magkakaroon ng afternoon program or afternoon shift. So ito yung mga isa sa concerns ng patients or ng students. So ito yung pilit sinasabi pa sa mga parents na kailangan yung retrofitting. Of course, para na rin sa comfortability ng mga students.
All right, thank you very much for that report. That was mobile journalist Daniel Dial. Expelled Cavite 4th District Representative Kiko Barzaga said he had already anticipated his removal from office. An interview with One News's political beat, Barzaga said expulsion had been a possibility ever since he began opposing former House Speaker Martin Romualdez. He added that he has adjusted well to life outside Congress, saying that being a private citizen is more enjoyable and less restrictive than serving in public office. Meanwhile, Barzaga said he appreciated Vice President Sara Duterte's gesture, calling her letter of sympathy meaningful and encouraging.
Cool lang because we always expect these things to happen. And expulsion was always on the table ever since I started going against Martin Romualdez. Even before my first suspension, it was already a possibility. So we were always prepared for these things to happen.
Interesting letter of sympathy from the Vice President.
Yes.
So, did you follow her instructions of drinking more water and vitamin C?
Well, I already took.
And is it working?
I was already taking vitamin C, and yeah, I drank a bit more water. It's working, healing. It's great to see that there are still politicians supporting me, especially one that I am also supporting and someone that I look up to.
All right, now don't go away because Money Talks with Kathy Yang is up next to get you ahead of the markets. I'm Pauline Verzosa. Stay tuned to One News.
Following a magnitude 7.8 quake in Sarangani, strong intensities were felt in parts of Mindanao. Mixed movement in fuel prices this week as millions of students return to school. And the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas warns the inflation environment continues to be challenging, indicating an elevated inflation path. This even as May inflation slowed to 6.8%, below expectations. We check in with Patrick Ella, economist at Sun Life Management Trust Corporation. Begin with the latest developments in the earthquake that rocked Mindanao an hour earlier. FIVOX reporting a magnitude 7.8 earthquake originated from Maasim, Sarangani with a depth of 33 kilometers. Intensity 8 was felt in Malapatan, Sarangani, and intensity 7 in General Santos City, Coronadal City in South Cotabato, and Santa Maria, Davao Occidental. FIVOX has issued a tsunami warning in 9 provinces. The first tsunami waves are expected to arrive between 7:37 and 9:37 a.m. Philippine time. Residents are advised to evacuate to higher grounds or move further inland.
Isan po namin yung mga tao po sa coastal area po, hanggat hindi po kami nagre-release ng tsunami cancellation is wag po muna sanang bumalik po dun hanggat wala pa pong advice si VBOX po. Base sa intensity 7 po or intensity 8, so may mga posibleng landslide po dyan, tapos may mga posibleng damages po sa mga ating kabahayan po or sa mga infrastructure, especially po yung mga substandard po ng mga buildings po.
Stay tuned to One News and our official social media pages for the latest on this developing story. In other news, diesel and gasoline will see mixed price movements this week. An industry source tells the Philippine Star diesel is projected to rise between 4 pesos and 4 pesos and 50 centavos. Gasoline may be cheaper between 1 peso and a peso and 50 centavos. The Energy Department will release final figures today. Adjustments take effect tomorrow, June 9th. Energy Secretary Sharon Garin says the agency is considering easing close regulation of pump price adjustments. This is to allow oil players to recoup financial losses. The DOE is planning to arrive at a final resolution this week. On the international front, Iran has launched a limited number of ballistic missiles at Israel. Islamic Revolutionary Guards say the attack late Sunday is a response to Israel's attack on Hezbollah, a close ally of Iran. U.S. President Donald Trump says Iran has not coordinated its latest attack on Lebanon. Prior to the attack, Trump told Meet the Press with Kirsten Welker that the U.S. and Iran are closing in on a deal.
Close. We have a couple of points. They've conceded the fact that they will not have nuclear weapons. We had a clause in there that we will not develop nuclear weapons. I said, well, what happens if they not develop, but they go out and purchase, they acquire? I want to put the word if they buy or purchase or acquire.
Would you unfreeze any Iranian assets or lift any sanctions up front as a part of any
No.
deal? So that would come after.
Comes after, yeah. If
They
they behave,
turned
if they do
over
a good
their
job, we
nuclear
start
enrichment.
talking, yeah.
Meantime, OPEC Plus has raised oil output targets by 188,000 barrels per day for July, increasing quotas despite actual production collapsing since the Gulf War broke out. Meantime, the International Air Transport Association has slashed this year's profit forecast for the global airline industry to $26 billion from $41 billion. The downgrade is due to a significant rise in jet fuel prices. Global oil prices edged up due to the renewed Mideast tensions as of 8:30 a.m. Philippine time. Brent crude trading at $95 per barrel, up 2.4%, while West Texas Intermediate is sitting at $92 a barrel, up 2.2%. The World Bank is looking to extend around $3 billion worth of loans to support programs in the Philippines in the next fiscal year. World Bank Philippines Director Zafir Mustafaulu said the pipeline includes assistance for the government's response to the Middle East crisis. It also covers continued support for the Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program, as well as projects in skills development, government modernization, and other reforms. The World Bank is currently in talks with the government as it reviews its borrowing priorities. The multilateral lender said its broader goal is to help reduce poverty, protect vulnerable sectors, and strengthen the country's resilience to future shocks. Our guest today forecasts inflation to come in a lot hotter than the actual result. In a Business World poll of 16 analysts, he tipped for 8.4% for May. Let's check back with him on how Friday's 6.8% result shifts his views on inflation and interest rates. With us for more, Patrick Ella, economist at Sun Life Investment Management and Trust Corporation. It's good seeing you, Patrick. Welcome back to the program and in person.
Thank you.
All right, so it was a lot slower than forecast. You were the hottest amongst all the 16 analysts surveyed by Business World. What have we found was the anomaly, if you will, in your forecasting?
Right. So first of all, rice is still printing hot double digits, but the decline in transport price, if you look at the record started way back in 1994. It's actually the highest on record. The decline is the highest on record, 5% over the month. So that was a bit surprising, given the fact that even when diesel and gasoline climbed 50 plus and 22 plus, then pulled back 40 plus and another 22 plus, respectively, for diesel and gasoline. You didn't see that kind of decline. So there's a lot of things being adjusted in the transport segment that was beyond practically everyone's viewpoint,
Is
especially
it
mine.
really the speed of adjustment or maybe the timing of the survey collection? Because when I had June Neri on this program
Yeah.
of BPI, he said something about it possibly is the collection of
Yes.
the data from the Philippine Statistics Authority.
Yeah. What the PSA does, it does every 2 weeks a survey. And I agree. The survey collection is still, not as accurate as opposed to, let's say, in the U.S. or other developed countries. But it is pretty close to that. But yes, it's possible that there are some measurement issues there. For instance, like our labor market measures, it doesn't look at the uninformal sector, for instance. So it really surveys a large portion of what is intended, but because of measurement problems, I tend to agree with June on that.
Right, and it was a 2.63% overshoot, if you will, a carryover that you had expected that would be reflected in the inflation result last Friday,
Right.
coming from April CPI. So
Yeah.
given how huge that was, how are you going to be working back on the assumptions you've made so that you may get it more right in the next month?
Yeah. Well, forecasting this, sometimes you have a bad month, sometimes you have a good month. But I tend to be a bit more consistent because over time, any internal model will definitely capture the dynamics, the direction. It's just that, some months are really just bad calls, some months are really good calls.
Right, and also the speed of the transmission, if you will. I
Yeah.
mean, is there also maybe a discovery from your end that perhaps the rockets and feathers that everybody talks about, the economist term for as oil prices go up, they go up so fast, but when they come down, it doesn't quite equate to the same kind of speed? Is that
Yeah.
what we actually saw?
Yeah, in most cases of the decline, I think last May was a bit surprising because the decline matched the decline in the input price. But yes, typically the decline tends to lag the eventual retail price. But perhaps they're seeing a lot of demand contraction, and that's why the pass on through of the lower prices is a bit more faster this time.
Right. I know that prior to the result, you had a May report that recommended or even pointed towards double-digit inflation hitting 10% maybe in June or July.
Yeah.
Are you going to be working that back because of the slower than forecast
Yeah, I think
May report?
I think it could be pushed back towards July or even August based on how the numbers figured out. But the important point there is the core inflation still climbing. So that tells you that the second round effects that the BSP is looking at will definitely carry over in the succeeding months. And that's why the governor made mention of that. Inflation expectation might be higher than expected.
Well, let's take a look at what he said, because it's interesting you mentioned the word de-anchoring. If we can just pull that up. He said that the inflation environment continues to be challenging, with projections indicating an elevated path. So that's one. The second one is, he said something about heightening the risk of de-anchoring from the 3% target. It's like the risk is still there.
Yes.
But of course, the nuance there is it's a lot slower than even their own forecast range. They forecast 7.1 to 7.9.
Right.
Where then are we in that de-anchoring? Are we a little less from the risk of de-anchoring? Or you just said there that the 10%, at least 10% double-digit inflation is still going to happen
It's just-
a little later.
Yeah, a little late. Well, typically when BSP talks about inflation, they look at it in a extended window. Typically, it's a 3-year policy window. So once you see that the anchoring word that they use, they are likely favoring a rate hike or a tighter situation. I mean, even if you look at previous episodes, once you see that the anchoring language, it definitely precedes a tighter environment for the BSP. So This month, I wouldn't rule out 50 basis points hike. Definitely 25. I think they will definitely do move 25, but whether it's 25 or 50, it really depends on how they assess the situation. I mean, in their last press conference, they talked about, the vote was very close between 50 and 25. 25 won out, but the expectation of a resolution of the Gulf is top of mind. So if that would be resolved, there any indication it would be resolved sooner, then I think we will see personally, I think they'll go for 25 if they think it's going to be resolved sooner. But based on what's happening, it's still up in the air.
Still up in the air,
Yeah.
25, 50 basis
Yeah.
points, intermeeting rate hike. That's off
Okay.
the table.
Yeah, I
Or-
think for
or
now it's off
for
the
now.
table. Yeah,
What could
I used to think
possibly
it was.
move them any earlier than June 18?
No, I think at this time they really have to do the June meeting.
So June 18 meeting.
Yeah.
So then the toss-up between 25 and 50.
Yes.
What could cause them to move to 50?
I think by that time, and there's no resolution of any clear deal with the Gulf. I think they really have to be a bit more aggressive. I know June was saying 75, but I think there's a bit aggressive. I think 50-25, that range. We will know by Thursday, a week from now.
Right. I'm looking at the peso now. It's opened at 61.495. It's a tad stronger than the close of 61.47. Do you think that could provide a little bit of maybe a tailwind and convince the Bangko Central that it's okay to hike rates by at least 25?
I think they will hike rates at the very least 25. I think the market is already expecting that.
Could the peso push them too? What role is the peso playing now, given that we've seen
Yeah.
it so volatile over the past couple of weeks?
I think the BSP, and they have been consistent in, I think, 3 governorships already, that, the level of the peso is not really a prime consideration. They just want to tame the volatility. So I don't think it will factor much into their final decision. I think what will factor much is whether, inflation next year or in the next few quarters will be lower than current projections. Because if it's lower than current projections, then I think then monetary policy is definitely effective.
As a final point on growth, I know that you're forecasting 4% from
Yes.
4.6, but you lifted 2027
Yeah.
to 6.5%. Do those change given the de-anchoring goal of the BSP at this point?
Not for now. The second quarter numbers will come out sometime, I think July or August. I'd like to see those because first quarter was expectedly slow. But if there's some recovery, I think we will adjust the forecast. But for now, I think we have reached a speed limit in terms of consumption at 4 to 5%. And I don't think we will go any lower than that. So I'm penciling 4% because, well, the next 3 quarters are still a bit unknown and very volatile. So I think we will still see growth and definitely bounce back next year because of the lower base. But for now, it really seems a lot of weakness out there, especially in consumer sentiment.
All right, well, hold on to those forecasts. Thank you so much, Patrick.
Thank you.
Appreciate your insights. Patrick Ella of Sun Life Investment Management and Trust Corporation. You're watching Money Talks. Coming up, the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee, headed by Senator Erwin Tulfo, resumes its inquiry into the flood control scandal. And prices and supply of medicine, now the focal point of attention as the Middle East conflict enters its 100th day. A conversation with Dr. Diana Edralin of the Pharmaceutical and Healthcare Association of the Philippines. Keep it here on One News. back to Money Talks. I'm Kathy Yang. A quick check on the Philippine peso. Peso opens this Monday a tad weaker, 61.495 to the dollar. The local unit rose 15.5 centavos on Friday to settle at 61.47 against the greenback. Traders say the peso may continue to trade in a narrow range, with the U.S. and Iran still on a stalemate over a peace deal. Checking in on the markets overseas, U.S. stock futures a mixed bag as Iran launches new attacks at Israel. The Nasdaq is up 0.6%, S&P 500 advances 0.2%, and the Dow falls 0.1%. Asian markets slumped this Monday due to renewed attacks. South Korea's Kospi sinks 0.8%, Japan's Nikkei 225 tumbles 3%, and Australia's ASX 200 is closed today in observance of the King's birthday holiday. Wall Street tumbled last Friday after AI and tech stocks sharply sold off. The Nasdaq sank nearly 4.2%, S&P 500 plummeted 2.6%, and the Dow fell 1.3%. The slump has erased about $1.3 trillion in market value. Analysts say bonds are becoming more attractively priced than stocks due to stretched valuations and rising yields, leaving the market in a precarious situation. This week, investors are bracing for consumer price inflation data and SpaceX's blockbuster IPO. Sources tell Reuters SpaceX, owned by Elon Musk, is running at 2 times oversubscribed, with demand reaching about $150 billion, double the $75 billion it is seeking to raise. SpaceX has set the price for its IPO at $135 per share and will begin trading on the Nasdaq starting Friday under the symbol SPCX. Philippine markets may move sideways in this shortened trading week with a downward bias. PSEI was able to close in the green last Friday, up 0.4% due to softer than expected inflation. The local bourse has been picking up momentum in previous sessions on the back of bargain hunting. Japheth Tantiangco of PhilStocks Financial says there is lack of fresh catalysts to sustain this rally. And the 10-year government bond yields ticked down to 7.529% from the previous close of 7.54%. She plays a central role in 2 of the country's most closely watched arenas, trade and healthcare. As newly elected president of the European Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines, she leads the main business lobby for European firms at a time Manila and Brussels race to conclude a Philippines-European Union free trade agreement. At the same time, as the first female president of the Pharmaceutical and Healthcare Association of the Philippines, she sits at the heart of debates over medicine prices, supply security, and access to new therapies for Filipino patients at a time of a conflict-linked oil price shock. With us now for more is Dr. Diana Edralin. It's good having you here, Dr. Diana.
Hi,
Welcome
Kathy. Thank
to
you
the
for
program.
having me.
And congratulations on your new role at the ECCP.
Oh, thank you, Kathy. Thank you for the recognition. It is also, I'm very grateful and deeply grateful for the trust that has been given by the European Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines members. And yes, definitely, since 1975, now we have a Filipina as the president of ECCP.
So what's the first order of business in, say, the next 100 days?
Yeah, so there's actually a lot that's happening, but I think you already mentioned it in your introduction. The first and the most critical one for us is to be able to pass the EU Free Trade Agreement for this year, because as you mentioned, with the Middle East crisis and also a lot of even climate change, I think the EU Free Trade Agreement is going to help us in definitely have an exponential growth for our economy, and also gives that predictability and hopefully sustainability and stability in terms of strengthening the partnerships, because the GSP Plus right now is like a VIP pass that we have, but EU FTA actually gives the predictability in terms of how that basically partnership will look like on the longer term.
To your point on predictability, given that we have so much uncertainty, I've just had this interview with Patrick Ella of Sun Life, and he mentioned that the Middle East crisis is really the wild card, 100 days on. Be specific for us. How exactly will it benefit Philippine consumers and businesses if we do indeed get into a free trade agreement with the European Union?
Yeah, so definitely the free trade agreement, number one, sets a clear alignment in terms of what's beneficial both for EU and also the Philippines. So number one, definitely we speak about tariffs, right? So right now, hopefully we'll be able to have some predictable tariffs, and hopefully it's also very important for the small businesses to be able to compete in the European market, and which we know is very focusing very much on the circular economy and sustainability. And right now, the current businesses, I guess there's a huge opportunity for us to learn from our European counterparts. So that's super important that we go to that transfer of knowledge and technology. Second is that definitely at the heart of the EU Free Trade Agreement is talks about AI and digitalization. So we have, I think the Filipinos are basically ahead in spearheading a lot of, with the techs and the startups, but we can also learn from them, so how they are able to concretize it, and it hopefully becomes the new standard for us. And I think finally, definitely EU Free Trade Agreement really now helps Philippines to become hopefully the ideal or the preferred investment place in Southeast Asia. So it also means more high-paying jobs for Filipinos.
If there is something that we've learned and are learning from the European Union through the GSP Plus, it's really rules-based engagement.
Exactly.
Given the governance risks that we face with the Senate squabbles and all that, could that perhaps delay an agreement this year?
Yeah, I think based on the recent, because in the recent annual general membership meeting of the European Chamber of Commerce, we also had Senator Zubiri participated that as our keynote speaker. And I think, at least from his perspective, the Senate is fully committed, and I think this administration is fully committed to make it happen this year.
And what impact would it have on the pharmaceutical industry now that we're talking about prices of medicines, given that we've entered a 100th day, and I know that buffer stocks, as you mentioned in previous interviews, really just last for 3 months?
Yes. So number one, the impact of the EU Free Trade Agreement definitely is more access and faster access to medicines. As you mentioned, it's something that's integrated into policy and legislation, because right now the biggest opportunity that we have in this agreement is what we call the reliance pathway. So a reliance pathway means, let's say, a drug or a vaccine or a medical device that is already approved in the European Medicines Agency should also be made available here in a shorter timeline, because they are already relying on the review that has been done by the European Medicines Agency. So right now, because of multiple factors, the lag time is about 1 to 3 years before a drug or a medical device is approved in the Philippines. And that's a significant delay, considering how many innovative and life-changing medicines there are already available globally, especially in Europe. So that's the first benefit that we see. And how does it link to the medicine prices? Because the longer it is not approved here, and the longer, let's say, the government doesn't pay for it, so the variability of the price, let's say 3 years from now, then the prices would have already also gone up. Now, so that's the first thing about the EU Free Trade Agreement. So that's one of the many things, but I want to highlight that. The second, in terms of the stability. So right now, definitely a lot of the European companies, because it's a trade route, both in sea and then and in air, that's a trade route, so it's Strait of Hormuz. So right now we're doing our best to ensure that the medicine supplies and vaccines become even more stable. So we continue still to absorb all of the increase in the jet fuel prices, even the local distribution costs. And actually the third impact for us is the peso devaluation. So the prices remain to be stable. However, in these types of agreements, we need to find a more sustainable way to have a predictable price, but also at the same time have a provision. So one of our proposals is potentially for pool procurement. That is definitely something that's very important, because when you now have a good understanding of how many medicines or vaccines do you need for an entire year or even multiple years, that also gives let's say, because we're heavily reliant on importation, it gives predictability to the manufacturing. So it also ends up having lower manufacturing costs and hopefully translates to more stable price in the Philippines.
We have less than a minute, Dr. Diana. Can you categorically say for sure we will not see an increase in medical prices, whether or not we get that free trade agreement?
Yeah, so, well, for now, I think what's important is that the partnership between the government and the private sector needs to be in place to make sure that all those measures are in place. As I mentioned, pool procurement, we also need to understand the forecasting, how much drugs do we need for the rest of the year to ensure that the prices remain stable.
Or they go up? There is a risk they could go
There
up.
is a
By
risk.
how soon?
So, well, like I said, right now, we are still trying to understand how much is the impact of all of these because right now we could still shoulder or cover for it. But for the rest of the year, depending, as you mentioned, on the situation in the Middle East, because if there are complete stoppage in terms of the supply chain, then that becomes a huge risk for us. Not because the price increase is not necessarily because of the production or manufacturing, it is because of the logistics. And that is the biggest risk.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your insights,
Thanks a
Dr.
lot,
Diana.
Kathy.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Dr. Diana Edrelin of PHAP and ECCP. Well, around 26 million learners return to classrooms today as the Department of Education opens school year 2026 to 2027. DepEd says public and private schools have been preparing through classroom readiness, activities, teacher deployment, and distribution of learning materials. Government agencies and local officials have deployed personnel for traffic, safety, and emergency response on the first day of classes. And the Blue Ribbon Committee is expected to resume its inquiry into the alleged flood control project anomalies, this time under the chairmanship of Senator Erwin Tulfo. Let's take a look at the live proceedings there at the Senate. As you see, Tulfo is going to lead the hearing after being appointed chairman of the committee by the Gatchalian-led majority bloc. Senator Pangilinan now speaking. He earlier said the panel will invite the 18 former military personnel who have claimed to have delivered kickbacks to several government officials, as well as the former House Speaker, Martin Romualdez. That is it for Money Talks. I'm Kathy Yang. Catch us again tomorrow, 9 a.m. Kapatid, we are One News, all sides, all the time. Morning Matters returns at 9:30 a.m. We'll leave you now with the pictures live from the Senate. Have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Ab initio and had no binding effect. It is in this context that today's public consultation and organizational meeting of the Blue Ribbon Committee is being called to order. And we hope that with these proceedings, we will be able to get to the bottom of the truth behind the allegations earlier presented. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I yield the floor.
Thank you, Senator Pangilinan. We now go to our acting Senate President, Senate Pro Tempore, Win Gatchalian.
Maraming salamat, Chairman, and let me acknowledge and thank our Chairman, Chairman Erwin Tulfo, for calling this hearing/consultative meeting. Let me also thank our Vice Chairman, Vice Chairman Kiko Pangilinan, and of course, all the members of this esteemed committee. Unang-una sa lahat po, nakakadismaya na hindi po umattend yung 18 bodyguards, yung kanilang abogado na si Attorney Baligod at si Ginoong Mike Defensor dito sa ating patawag. Ito po ay opisyal na patawag. Nag-release po ang Blue Ribbon Secretariat ng official na invitation. Ipinost to sa website. Itong ating consultative meeting today ay ini-stream rin po sa website. At makikita ho natin na full complement po ang nandito po sa consultative meeting. At nakakadismaya po dahil kung alam ng mga invited guests, particularly po yung 18 bodyguards, na sa loob ng kanilang puso ay alam nila ang katotohanan, dapat pumunta ho sila dito para ipamahagi at i-share sa ating lahat ang katotohanan. Hindi ho pwedeng pumili kung saan sila pupunta at magsalita. Hindi ho pwedeng pumili kung sino ang kakausapin ho nila, kung kakampi man o hindi. Dahil kung alam mo na sa puso mo ang katotohanan, kahit saan ka pumunta, katotohanan ang dapat mong sabihin. Marami ho kaming, personally, marami po akong inihandang mga katanungan. Nakita
Kasi nga po, nagkakarga sila ng mga mali-maletang pera, sabi nga nila. Yun po talagang trabaho nila, taga-bitbit, Una, sino ba itong 18 kargador ng mga maleta? Saan ba sila galing? We cannot simply bring in people sa Blue Ribbon Committee na nag-aakusa na mabibigat na paratang nang hindi man lang nalalaman kung karapat-dapat ba sila paniwalaan. Kasi simulang-simula pa lamang po na tinawag silang 18 Marines, may paglilinlang na agad. Yung bansag na 18 Marines sa isang paraan upang pabanguhin sila sa publiko. Matik po kasi yan. Pag sinabing Marines, iba po ang respeto ng mga tao. Pero hindi naman po silang lahat ay dating Marines. At mahigit kalahati sa kanila ay discharged without honors or dishonorably discharged from service for various offenses. Ibig sabihin, palpak sila. Tulad ng pagiging AWOL o absent without leave. Why is this information very important? Because for people to believe their allegations, it must come from a credible and reliable source. And so, the people using them portray them as heroes. God damn. Sabi nga ng isa sa mga senador na dumalo nung araw na yon, bayani daw po sila. Pero nakakaya naman po sila sa iba nating mga bayani. Na itong 18 kargador na ilang taon nagtrabaho kay Saldico, may 7 years at 9 years at nagbitbit daw, sabi nila, ng sangkatutak ng maleta ng pera. At bigla na lang tinubuan ng konsensya at ngayon ay naninira ng buhay ng mga inosenteng tao, ay tatawagin nating bayani. Pasensya na. Hindi ako papayag na matabi ang mga sinungaling nito kila Jose Rizal, Andres Bonifacio at mga dakila nating OFWs. At dito papasok ang Pangulo kong punto. Hindi lang po ang kredibilidad ng 18 kargador ang kaduda-duda. Ang mismong testimonya nila ay nakakapagtaka. Lumabas na po ang ilan sa mga ito sa balita.
Good morning, mga kapatid. You are still watching Morning Matters here on One News.
Before we go back to the Blue Ribbon Committee hearing on anomalous flood control projects, a magnitude 7.8 earthquake struck off the coast of Sarangani province this morning. The strong tremor was felt in several parts of Mindanao, including Davao City, where students and teachers at Santa Ana Central Elementary School felt the quake during their flag-raising ceremony past 7 a.m. In another school in Davao City, part of the wall of A. Mabini Elementary School was damaged due to the tremor. Meanwhile, in Matanao, Davao del Sur, a school building also collapsed following the strong quake. Photos from the area show heavy damage to the structure. In General Santos City, the PNP says some houses and buildings also collapsed following the strong quake. One casualty has so far been reported in Barangay Dahangas, while authorities continue to assess the full extent of the damage.
All right, so this is a developing story because as we speak, a lot of students are also affected because nagkasabay nga coincided with the opening of classes. So we have seen reports in Landan National High School in South Cotabato, in General Santos City. There were schools na talagang pinakita yung mga students na tatakot sila during the quake. Go ahead, Pawi.
All right, but now shifting gears to other news, Bicol Saro Party List Representative Terry Redon brought a suitcase containing mangoes and a wig during a news forum on Saturday. Redon denied the claims made by a group of 18 alleged bagmen of Zaldico, insisting that he never received any suitcase with money. He criticized the Senate Blue Ribbon hearing of the Cayetano block, saying it was intended to discredit House prosecution members. The lawmaker vowed to continue pursuing the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte despite the allegations.
Para tapusin na po yung kasinungalingan sa maleta, meron po tayong dalang maleta ngayong araw po na ito. Hindi ko lahat ng maleta may pera, mga kaibigan. Yung iba po, may mangga at peluka. I was never mentioned in that affidavit at parang hinabol na lang yung pong pangalan ko during that meeting with the 18 Marines. Kahit kailan, kahit saang panahon, kahit saan mang lugar, wala po akong natanggap na maleta.
Let's now talk to Bicol Saro Party List Representative Terry Redon. Good morning and thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. Congrats on the new show.
Thank you. Rep Terry, we just want to get your thoughts on what's happening in the ongoing Senate hearing.
Well, we just released a statement today knowing that the 18 Maleta boys won't be joining definitively the Senate hearing today. Natsope, nabahag po yung buntot nito po nga 18 Maleta boys. They cannot stand scrutiny under an official Blue Ribbon Committee proceeding kung saan meron pong oath, pwede ho sila masubject to rigorous cross-examination at pwede ho sila makasuha ng perjury bukod sa libel pagka nagsinungaling sila nun. And the nation should know na yung pong hindi nila pagsipot ngayon is basically a testament na talagang nagsisinungaling ho sila nung pong naunang pagdinig or pagpupulong nung pong nakarang linggo. So, ibig sabihin, wasak po yung kredibilidad nito pong 18 Maleta boys sa hindi ho nila pagsipot ngayong araw po na ito.
Sir, you already mentioned na may mga possible cases, but are you personally planning to file a case yourself?
Well, at the moment, parang ayaw na ho natin pansinin, ano? Yung pong spectacle last week. But some of my colleagues had already filed cyber libel cases in different parts of the country. So I think the Maleta boys will be definitely be busy answering all of these cyber libel cases that have been filed against them.
Well, Kong Terry, you already personally denied receiving any suitcase, but what you did last Saturday was show a suitcase na may laman na mangoes, pati a wig. Tell us more about that, Kong.
Well, it was very important to really reduce to a farce yung pong spectacle na nangyari po nung pong Thursday. Dahil totoo naman ho yun, para it's very easy to make a barefaced lies. Particularly in my case, na I was never mentioned in any affidavit. More importantly, the time period that they were talking about, I was never in Congress at that point. So, similar to the previous allegation, for example, that I inserted projects on a budget that I wasn't a member of Congress yet. Ganun din ho ka-preposterous yung pong allegation. So, it really deserved that kind of ridicule to basically describe that meeting last week.
Is there a reason, Kong, kung bakit mangoes, pati wig yung naisipan nyo pong ilagay doon sa loob ng maleta?
Wala naman. I think the point needs to be made na hindi naman po lahat ng maleta ang laman po ay pera. Pwede pong ibang mga bagay. Katulad po ng mangga, katulad po ng peluka.
But don't you think, or what makes you believe that you were specifically targeted?
Well, I think it's not just myself, It's the entirety of the House Prosecution Panel. Kasi talagang meron pong a very specific mention of the leading members of the prosecution panel there, like Congresswoman Jervil Luistro, Congressman Joel Chua, Congresswoman Laila De Lima, and myself, And syempre, as we go along towards the July 6 date of the trial, talagang these types of false information are really expected, At I think they would really want to seek to undermine the credibility of the House prosecutors, basically presenting the case against the Vice President.
Well, let's talk about the impeachment trial, which is going to be held on July 6, if I'm not mistaken, and there will be pre-trials. Can you tell us, Attorney Congressman Redon, what are your preparations in the upcoming trial, the prosecution panel?
Well, hopefully within the day, I will be able to submit our manifestation on the answer/non-answer of the Vice President to the articles of impeachment. So we deemed it the answer very insignificant to actually merit a reply from the prosecution panel. Kasi, alam po niyo, wala akong kalaman-laman yung sagot ng pangalawang Pangulo. Di ba? Kaya nga, sinagot na lang ho namin doon na, okay, thank you, we are noting your answer, non-answer, but we are raring to go to pre-trial to basically mark our evidence and go into trial para ho maglatagan na ho tayo ng katotohanan dito.
Is there anything else that you are doing with regard to preparations in line with the timeline set by the Senate Impeachment Court?
But every day ho, we're doing the mock trials already, no? So on each and every article of impeachment, many of us are basically practicing yung pong mga objections that can be raised on the witnesses and yung pong mga questions that senator judges may actually posit, no? To the prosecution panel. Siyempre, we're very concerned, no, on that the Senate will commit themselves to the actual timelines that have already been declared. Pero hopefully wala pa naman sila binabanggit. So, yung pong mid-June pre-trial and yung pong July 6 trial start date, hopefully is still in place.
And on the part of the prosecution panel, Kong Terry, are you still conducting mock trials, and how significant are these mock trials in your preparation for the impeachment trial?
Well, very important po yung mock trials, no? So, we'll be doing it up until trial proper kasi mahalaga po talaga na yung pong feel no actual trial is something that is simulated by the prosecution panel, no? So, tuloy-tuloy po yun. So, some of the private lawyers are standing in, no, as a defense counsel, supposedly, and as senator judges.
Well, should the public expect new evidence at this point and new personalities that will, testify during the trial?
Well, we're still talking about essentially the same pieces of evidence that you had seen, no, during the House committee proceedings. Yung madadagdag lang naman po dito malamang yung pong bank accounts nung pong mag-asawang Duterte Carpio, which we will seek to subpoena as we go into pre-trial.
Well, also, I would like to ask how significant is the leadership or whoever will preside during the impeachment trial will be on how the trial will go and which evidence should be open. Kasi, if I'm not mistaken, during over the weekend, sinasabi ni Senator Alan Peter Cayetano na he will preside the impeachment trial and they have yet to, solve the problem in the Senate.
Well, we can work with any presiding officer naman po, whether it is Senator Cayetano, Senate President pro tempore Win Gatchalian. But that's a matter that they will have to really resolve themselves, no? At the level of plenary and at the level of the Senate Impeachment Court. No? So, kami naman po, we will present our evidence, whoever it is. No? Pero, nagsalita naman po si Senate President pro tempore Win Gatchalian. No? Sabi niya, he will preside the Senate Impeachment Court and they have the numbers to basically convene it. So, we will present ourselves to them pagka po binuksan po nila ulit yung Senate Impeachment Court.
Well, Kong Terry, the House prosecutors have so far backed the leadership already of Senate President pro tempore Sherwin Gatchalian. But what do you make of the power struggle that is happening right now in the Senate?
Well, syempre, it's an internal affair, no, that they will have to resolve on their own. But to be very clear, the House has recognized Senate President pro tempore Win Gatchalian in the palace also. So, like what the lead prosecutor had stated, pagka they convene the Senate Impeachment Court, most definitely, we will present ourselves to them.
In this numbers game, how confident are you that you will get to 16?
I think, irrespective of the numbers, no, very important po yung maglatag na ebidensya. No? So, hopefully, from the commencement of the trial up until the very end, pagka po nailatag naman po namin yung ebidensya, I think we can get to 16 senator judges that would be convinced to convict the Vice President.
Right.
Well, Kong Terry,
with that question, the reason why I also asked earlier is because we all know that some members of the Senate they can be called as Duterte bloc, have already, said no na sila have already issued statements even before this impeachment trial, nahaharangin nila yung impeachment, etc. So aren't you guys worried about that? That's why the reason why I ask you about the leadership na kasi I remember before, 'di ba, nagkaroon ng mga issue din sa mga impeachment trial kung ano yung bubuksan ng mga evidence, etc. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the impeachment trial train has long left the station. Tingin ko po, tuloy-tuloy na po ito up until the very end. No? The only question na lang naman po talaga is whether to convict or to acquit the Vice President. So, yun po question on whether they will be able to dismiss it at the first instance. Tingin ko po tapos na po yun. If they wanted it to be dismissed, hindi mo na dapat umabot yun towards this point. No? So, everyone is raring to go to trial, and hopefully, the defense panel and the Vice President is also ready to do so.
Well, Kong Terry, the last time we spoke to Chairwoman Jervy Luistro, she said that all articles of impeachment will be given equal weight. But if we were to ask you which article of impeachment you think should be presented first, does it matter? Will it matter in the trial? Which one will be presented first in order to show which one has the strongest basis for impeachment?
Similar to what Congresswoman Luistro said, no? There's equal weight to each and every article of impeachment. So it doesn't really matter which comes first. No? But that is a question that will be resolved at pre-trial kasi it's a continuing conversation among prosecutors which will be made first, whether confidential funds misuse, yung pong unexplained wealth, or yung pong threats against the president. So hopefully by the middle of June, the entire sequence will have been determined.
Well, we will continue to get in touch with you regarding this matter. But for the meantime, thank you so much, Bicol Saro Party List Representative Terry Ridon.
Maraming salamat. Magandang umaga.
More matters to discuss after this quick break. Keep it here on One News.
Ang panahon, yan po ang accomplishments po ng Blue Ribbon na hearing na isinagawa po natin ngayong 20th Congress. Now, we go to the presentation. Yes.
If you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, yes, also to fortify what you're saying, Senate Bill 1835 is an Infrastructure Governance Act reorganizing the DPWH. It's we filed the bill.
Noted, Senator Soto. Let us now move to the presentation of the various agencies. We start with the National Bureau of Investigation. Attorney Melvin Matibag, go ahead, please.
Meron po kaming prepare na slides, baka po pwedeng ma-flash.
Go ahead.
Una po sa lahat, magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Maraming salamat po sa inyong imbitasyon at kamusta na po kayo, mga kaibigan naming senador. Noong Pebrero 23 po, 2026, nagsumite ng joint affidavit ang grupo na sinasabing the former security of Saldico kasama si Attorney Balikod na naglalaman ng mga aligasyon ng cash deliveries. Ang investigasyon ay sinagawa ng NBI Task Force Marino base sa deputization ng Ombudsman sa sariling kapangyarihan ng NBI. So tinawag po naming Task Force Marino ito noon, pero pwede naman na po namin palitan siguro yung pangalan ng Task Force pag pamarapati na po.
Yes, please do that kasi po insulto po sa institusyon sa Philippine Marine Corps at sa Armed Forces of the Philippines dahil ito pong mga ito ay karamihan po sa kanila tulad po na nasabi ni Senator Raffy, ito po yung mga nag-awol, may kaso po, dishonorable discharge at sinabi na rin po ng AFP na maaari huwag pong gamitin na sila po ay 18 Marines dahil hindi po sila lahat Marines at ang iba may mga kaso. Maraming salamat po, Attorney Matibag.
Palitan na lang po namin kung hindi Task Force Bodyguard, baka Task Force Bellboys po para mas appropriate po siguro. Next slide, please. Ang ating tatalakayin ngayon ay ang ebidensyang halaga ng affidavit ng tinaguriang 18 bodyguards. Sa kasong ito, ginamit ang affidavit bilang pangunahing ebidensya na umano'y cash deliveries. Ngunit ayon sa NBI Task Force, kailangan nating suriin kung sapat ba ang bigat ng ebidensya, kung may issue sa paggamit ng titulong Marines at kung paano na iba ang independent recollection sa collective narrative. Ang layunin natin ay makita kung ang affidavit ay talagang nakatutulong sa pagbuo ng probable cause kung ito man ay kahinaan na dapat pagtuunan ng pansin. Sa katunayan po, ang ginamit na lang nga naming pamantayan ay probable cause at hindi na yung memorandum circular ng DOJ na nagsasabi ng there should be reasonable certainty of conviction pag mag-aakyat tayo ng kaso. Next slide, please. Ang tanong na dapat sagutin, nakakatulong ba o nakakasira sa kredibilidad ang label na ex-marine? Ginagamit ang label na ito para ipakita ng grupo na may integridad at disiplina. Gaya na nga po ng sinabi ni Senator Rapi Tulfo kanina sa kanyang opening statement. Sa kasong ito, may mga miyembro ng grupo na hindi naman tunay na Marines o honorably discharged. Sa katunayan po, ayon sa aming pagsusuri at pag-iimbestiga, 12 sa 16 na dating Marines ay dishonorably discharged. At may mga miyembro ng Army at Reservists lamang o sibilyan. Kaya ang ex-Marine label ay automatikong nagbibigay ng kredibilidad na sadyang ginamit upang itaas ang kalidad ng kanilang sinasabing testimonya. Next slide, please. Ayon sa batas, ang testimonya ay dapat nakabatay sa personal na kaalaman. Kung ang testigo ay aktual na nakakita ng cash delivery, mas malakas ang ebidensya. Ngunit kung narinig lang niya mula sa iba, ito ay hearsay at mahina ang probative value. Ito po ay isang legal na provision. Testimony must be based on personal knowledge. Hearsay has a weak probative value. Sa report na lumabas ng aming pong task force, lumalabas na karamihan sa pahayag ng ay hearsay at 10 to 20% lamang ang base sa personal knowledge ng mga affiants. Halimbawa, may testigo na nagsabing sinabi sa akin ni Estrada na may cash delivery. Hindi ako mismo ang nakakita at hindi rin po nakita kung ano ang laman ng mga maleta. Base lamang sa sinasabi ng kanilang mga kasama o kung ano ang itinext sa kanilang group chat. Next slide please. Sabi David, 10 to 20% lang ang base sa personal na kaalaman. Halimbawa, may ilang testigo na nagsabing nakita nila ang bag, pero ang karamihan ay narinig lamang mula sa ibang miyembro ng grupo o executive assistant. Ang majority ng pahayag ay hearsay, kaya mahina ang ebidensya. Isang halimbawa ng pahayag ng testigo, sinabi sa akin ni Estrada na may cash delivery. Hindi ako mismo ang nakita. Sa report na binanggit ng mga personal knowledge ng bawat affiant ay limitado. Ang natitirang assertions ay hearsay na. Next slide please. Walang dokumento. Ito na po, importante po ito para suportahan ng kanilang testimonya. Walang dokumento. Yung next slide pa po. Lack of corroboration. Walang dokumento, device, o physical evidence na sumusuporta sa mga aligasyon. Halimbawa, walang CCTV footages, resibo o cellphone records, wala po. Nagpapatunay ng custody. Ang ebidensya ay puro salita lamang, walang kasamang pisikal na ebidensya. Sa report kahit may subpoena, walang naipakitang original photographs, receipts o bank statement ang grupo. Ang absence ng documentary evidence ay hindi lamang kahinaan, kundi direct failure to comply with the legal directive. Binigyan po namin sila ng sufficient time para magsumite ng mga corroborative evidence, testimonya man o material evidence or physical evidence, wala po silang isinumite. Next slide please. Ang laman ng bag ay kadalasang hinuhulaan lang, hindi aktual na nakita. Halimbawa, sinabi ng testigo na mabigat ang bag, kaya pinaniniwalaan nilang pera ang laman, pero walang aktual na pagtingin o pagbubukas ng bag. Sa report ng 12 sa 18 appliance, hindi nakita ang laman ng maleta at umaasa lamang sa bigat, code word na basura o sinabing executive assistant, ang corpus, ang elemento o ang cash mismo ay hindi napatunayan na independent evidence. Kung maalala nyo po, may mga lumabas noon na affidavit na naunang inilabas sa media na sinasabi nila kaya nalamang pera, merong mga nasa active duty pa na PNP na binuksan at kumuha ng pera. Pero nung isinumiti na po sa ombudsman yung affidavit, wala na po yun. Hindi na po binanggit yun doon sa kanilang affidavit na isinumiti sa ombudsman. Ang mangyari po rito, parang nagpapalit-palit palagi ang sinasabi doon sa affidavit hanggang po nung huling nagkaroon ng pagdinig po dito. Next slide please. Ang affidavit ay hindi dumadaan sa cross-examination. Kaya mas mababa ang bigat nito kumpara sa testimonya sa korte. Halimbawa sa affidavit, hindi natatanong ang testigo ng kabilang panig. Sana po ito nga yung pagkakataon na magkaroon ng paghaharapan. Kaya hindi masusuri ang katotohanan ng pahayag. Kung may maling impormasyon, hindi ito agad mahihiwatigan. Sa report, binanggit na ang affidavit ay ex parte coordinated at hindi subject sa cross-examination. Ang Supreme Court na po mismo ang nagsabing ang coordinated testimony ay may diminished weight. Next slide please. May mga impormasyon na dumaan pa sa 2 o higit pang tao bago makarating sa affidavit. Halimbawa, ang isang miyembro ay narinig lang mula sa ibang miyembro na may cash delivery, tapos isasama sa affidavit, lalong humihina ang kredibilidad ng ganitong pahayag dahil hindi ito direktang karanasan. Sa report, maraming assertion ang galing sa group, Viber chats o sa executive assistant. Hindi sa sariling karanasan ng applicant. Ang hearsay ay inadmissible at walang independent probative weight. Double hearsay pa nga po. Narinig sa ganito, pinasa sa kanila. At yung grupo po, doon sa Viber chats nila, hindi na alam kung sino ang nagpadala. At nung hinahanap po namin yung mga Viber chat na ito, ang sinasabi, wala na yung telepono. Kaya maaaring yung binabanggit po noon na sinabing papalitan yung telepono, kasama na sa naratibo ang kanilang binubuo. Next slide, please.
Attorney Matibag, before you continue, I would just like to inform everyone na yung pong 18 ex-bodyguards narito po sa building na ito, nasa tanggapan po ni Senator Robin Padilla, kasama po si Attorney Baligod. Despite po yung ating pong imbitasyon sa kanila na dumalo sa hearing, mas minabuti po nilang magtungo sa opisina ni Senator Robin Padilla at doon po ay mag-monitor at mag-live din yung 18 bodyguard at magpa-presscon. Yun lamang po, I just want to let everybody know na they're here in the building, yung 18 po na yon kasama si Attorney Baligod, pero ayaw po nilang bumabali dito sa ating hearing at nandoon po sila sa tanggapan ni Senator Robin Padilla. Continue, Attorney
Mr. Chair.
Matibag. Yes, go ahead, Senator Risa.
Mr. Chair, for the record lang po, bagamat ito pong dinadaos natin ngayon sa pamumuno ninyo na Blue Ribbon Committee ay meeting, pero inaasahan ko rin po na iimbitahan ng chair itong 18 ex-bodyguards sa hearing kapag fully constituted na yung committee. And dapat po, hindi nila baliwalain yung imbitasyon ng komite. Dahil pag ginawa pa nila po iyon, magiging subject po sila sa subpoena and show cause order at higit pa mula sa komite. Salamat po, Mr. Chair.
Noted po, Senator Ontiveros, gagawin po natin yan. Pero for now kasi, ang ginawa po natin ay inimbitahan lamang natin dahil ito po ay isang meeting lamang at organizational meeting po ng Blue Ribbon Committee. Kaya po hindi po natin mapapwersa yung mga yon. Pero inimbitahan po rin natin, gayon pa man, noong pong Miyerkules para walang masabi po yung kabilang grupo, yung minority bloc, na iniiwas po natin at ayaw natin sila imbitahan. So for the record po, nabanggit po kanina ng Secretary at inimbitahan po ang 18 na ito kasama po si Attorney Baligod. Subalit po, hindi po sila at nagpahayag na po sila kani-kanina lamang na hindi po sila bababa rito bagkus sila po ay bisita ni Senator Robin Padilla.
Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, just for the record, baka kasi hindi naintindihan masyado ng ating mga kababayan. Kaya ito ay hindi hearing at ito ay committee meeting consultative meeting ay dahil kinikilala natin na hindi pa nahahalal ang lahat ng membro ng Committee on Public Accountability. At dahil hindi pa nahahalal lahat ng membro, hindi pa constituted ang committee. Although the chairperson has been elected and the chairperson, as legislative practice will reveal, has from time to time been allowed by practice to hold consultative meetings, even if there is no quorum, even if the committee has not been fully constituted.
Empowered to appoint a vice chairman.
And also, yes, that is correct, is empowered to designate a vice chairman. So in the meantime, because we are have not, out of respect for our colleagues in the minority, dahil hindi pa nako-constitute, hindi pa sila hinahalal, ay hindi natin tinatawag itong, o hindi natin isinasagawa ang hearing. This is in contrast to the previous bogus hearing last Thursday, wherein the Blue Ribbon Committee precisely had been declared vacant, and even before we removed the Senate President, former Senate President, they already sent out notices for that June 4 hearing, which again is an indication of their disregard for our rules in the Senate. Kaya, just for the record, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you for
Mr.
that
Chair.
clarification. Go ahead.
Dagdag lamang po dun sa sinabi ni Vice Chair Kiko, Mr. Chair. In fact, dun sa bogus hearing, nagpakita at nagsalita yung 18 ex-bodyguards at saka si Attorney Baligod. So, although of course I submit to what the Chair has said na hindi naman sila mapipilitang dumalo dito sa ating meeting bilang mga guests, I think loss po sa kanila na hindi sila humarap sa committee hearing na ito para matanong din natin na ibang mga senador and yung mga magiging miyembro ng committee once constituted dahil naghanda rin po tayo ng mga tanong sa kanila. Just for the record, Mr. Chair. Salamat po.
Mr. Chairman, just to emphasize na yung June 3, klarong-klaro na noong dineclare all seats vacant, ang inelect natin as chairman of the Blue Ribbon Committee ay no other than Senator Erwin Tulfo. So siya lang ang may karapatan na tumawag ng ganitong consultative meeting at siya lang ang may karapatan para mag-issue ng mga invitations through the Blue Ribbon Secretariat. So let me just put that on record.
Thank you, Mr. Senate Pro Tempore, Acting President Win Gatchalian. Go ahead, Attorney Matibag.
May I approach po?
Please.
There's an important thing that I want
Go
to
ahead
relay
po.
po. Sa inyo po. Pwede
Go
po
ahead
akong
po.
lumapit dyan. Because I cannot say.
1 minute suspension.
Good morning and welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News.
Now, as we know, the Senate remains divided over who holds the gavel. The Cayetano bloc insists Senator Alan Peter Cayetano is still the legitimate Senate president, while the Gatchalian bloc maintains that the new leadership is valid. Amid the leadership row, the Blue Ribbon Committee resumes its flood control hearing today, led by Senator Erwin Tulfo. This comes after Tulfo apologized for threatening to have senators arrested if they hold what he called a fake Blue Ribbon hearing.
Joining us now to discuss the political fallout from the continuing Senate leadership row is political analyst Professor Eric De Torres. Professor, good morning and thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Hi, Professor. Good morning.
To all of you and good morning to all your viewers.
Hi, Professor, how would you describe this leadership crisis in the Senate?
Well, this is very frustrating. Frustrating in a way that you can really feel to the many Filipino people about these contradictions, and at the same time, really about, at the end of the day, power play in terms of our politicians and senators for that matter. There's really a problem in terms of the legislative work that they have to actually do. And more importantly, this reflects the kind of institution and personality-based politics that we are encountering right now.
Yeah. Prof, regarding the leadership now of Senate President Pro Tempore Sherwin Gatchalian, well, we have Malacanang in the House of Representatives backing his leadership. But for you, what is the strongest basis for the legitimacy of Senator Gatchalian holding the Senate presidency?
I think it is important that this should be resolved first, regardless of whether or not they are recognized by various groups. And if you have noticed, for the past 2 days, there had been statements, and at the same time, it's a narrative, if you may, that the Gatchalian bloc is the legitimate bloc for that matter, or legitimate majority. But the other side also has a valid point. So I think that the soonest that the Supreme Court must be able to give basically their view and give a decision with regard to this, simply because it's a war, it's a battle of the narrative in terms of whether or not who are basically the majority and the minority bloc. So this in effect affects basically future direction of course, the impeachment. Number two, the legislative work that they have, and more importantly, the political bickering from both sides, if you may. So I think the first key consideration here is that the Supreme Court must be able to give enlightenment in terms of who is really the legitimate, because both has basically a valid point, if you may.
Well, Senator Alan Peter Cayetano, in one of his Facebook live sessions, said that the truth, or his truth, is covered or backed by 3 books that he has with him. No, the rules of the Senate, the Constitution, and even the Bible. But why do you think that Senator Alan Peter Cayetano hasn't gone to the Supreme Court to challenge this situation first and foremost?
Well, of course, the very nature by which he did not go to the Supreme Court, it's because of prudence on the part of the Senate and the legislative branch, that they are basically an independent institution, and the way that it should be resolved is within or among themselves. So the key consideration here really is for them to be able to resolve it as such. However, the problem is that nobody would like to yield for that matter. So there are many cases cited before, and legal experts and legal luminaries, so to speak, giving their own interpretation as such, which basically, that's the conflict. Parehong valid, parehong may contention yung both camps. So I think that the Supreme Court needs to step in. However, would we be able to expect them stepping in, or basically giving their point of view or decision by matter of really looking at the functional aspect rather than what is actually written within the rules, it's going to be very problematic because in such a way that it's very political in nature.
Prof, at this point, how necessary is a special session?
Well, it's very much necessary. However, again, a special session would not resolve anything. The first step in being able to look at it as such is for them to first determine who is the legitimate Senate president. Because, for example, if you may, why is it that Senator Win Gatchalian was elected only as Senate pro tempore and just an acting Senate president, right? And there's also an issue and a challenge between in contentious part of that majority aspect. So of course, it would depend on who are you going to, who are you asking. So it's a play and a battle of narrative in such a way that it affects the people's perception. But before moving on and going through that special session, I think it is imperative that the leadership should be addressed first.
But then there's that question, Professor, no, how can the Senate function when there are two blocs claiming legitimacy of their leadership?
Yeah, that's the most problematic aspect here, and I think lack of a better term, the respect with one another, the prudence, and if they still have that delicadeza, Senator Gatchalian and Senator Cayetano should talk. And how would they be able to resolve this as such? Kasi sa totoo lang, ang naapektuhan yung trabaho at saka yung taong bayan pagdating dito. So, ang problem is nobody would like to yield. One is basically claiming that, they are the legitimate bloc. The other one is also claiming as such. So, nobody would like to yield. And ang kawawa na naman, ang may problema or apektado dito is basically the Filipino people.
Well, you talk about, you just mentioned taong bayan, the people. There is a looming protest or rally on June 12. Supposedly, they will march towards the Malacanang and will ask for the president's resignation. But what can you say about that? What are your thoughts on that? Of course, also on the meaning of people power, because I remember during the EDSA People Power, that is a call for democratic change. So ito po bang call na ito, itong rally na ito, because our political environment is super polarized, diba? Divided into two. So can you call this people power as well?
Actually, we don't really know if it is really a people power as such, considering that people are also divided. And why is the thing happening in the Senate is not really good, because it reflects the kind of polarization that resonates also on the part of the Filipino people. So talagang whether we like it or not, talagang apektado yung taong bayan doon sa banggaan sa taas of which side are they basically leaning towards to. And there's really no unification and united front in terms of, what do we really want? Is it flood control? Is it basically accountability? Who's talking about accountability as such? Who are the credible, politicians or senators, basically, if you may, or even on the part of them? So this is actually very challenging in such a way that there's no united front or unity on the part of the people of what do we really want in this particular aspect, in this particular moment in time wherein there's a challenge in terms of the inflation, jobs are, job generation, peso dollar rate is down. So, it's very challenging times for us.
For the Filipino people, yun na nga, like, everyone ended up researching on Avellino versus Cuenco, or for the people who aren't as well versed in legalese, how do you think that the public is likely viewing what's going on in the Senate?
Well, that's the thing. It's the public is also polarized between, of course, the other side or the other bloc, which is the Duterte bloc, and the other side basically is the administration or the Gatchalian bloc, if you may, and whatever you might call it. right? And the way that you intend as such is all of this basically has something to do politically in the near future in terms of the impeachment, in terms of the voting. Everything has something to do with the kind of dynamics that is happening in the Senate that all leads basically to personalities of either the administration or basically the Dutertes. And the way that we intend to look at it as such is very personality based, which affects the decision making of individuals and people becoming more polarized as such.
Well, Professor, going back to the Blue Ribbon Committee hearing last week under Senator Alan Peter Cayetano and Senator Pia, what did you make of the affidavit and the testimony of the 18 individuals or the 18 alleged bagmen? Was there any weight to what they said, and did they succeed in besmirching the credibility of House prosecution members?
Well, I guess the more important thing here is to show evidence. Well, of course, at the end of the day, this is going to be, of course, hearsay. How would they be able to corroborate their evidence, even if they have first-hand knowledge about it? The more important thing is yung resibo, yung ebidensya. Otherwise, it will just be a narrative. And the thing about it is how they are basically competing with the other side. And you look at the Senate Blue, the committee meeting right now. So it's not really a hearing, but a committee. And, looking at such, kung titignan natin, paulit-ulit na sinasabi, the legitimacy of the Blue Ribbon is, the chairperson is Senator Erwin Tulfo, and so on and so forth. So to discredit basically the other group that made these statements last Thursday. So again, people are getting confused. People are getting frustrated in terms of who we really want to be accountable with all of these flood control issues.
Well, on the leadership of Senator Alan Peter Cayetano, he said that hindi naman daw siya binigyan ng chance. No? For the sake of argument, for the sake of fairness, with the 3 weeks of him assuming office as the Senate President, hindi ba talaga siya nabigyan ng chance to do what he needs to do?
Well, I think it's too messy. One, yung shooting na nangyari, tapos biglang yung takas ni Senator Bato. So talagang too messy yung manner na kung saan nataon yung leadership ni Senator Alan. But of course, it's again, I don't know if it is just an unfortunate situation, but they could have at least again give him a chance in terms of how he will be able to lead the other remaining 21 senators as such. So I think it's the play really of politics that all leads basically to the impeachment, and all road leads to the 2028 elections.
Pero paano daw siya babibigyan ng chance, Professor? Hindi naman pumasok yung block niya for 3 days. And that also, parang they almost violated the Constitution kung hindi pa sila session on that day.
Exactly. So this is the criticism on the part of their bloc, that why is it that they also, it started with the boycott of the back then minority, and then parang gumanti sila by not also showing up. But then again, nung nagpalit ng leadership, this is also our question. Nung sila na yung nagko-constitute ng majority and they have a quorum for that matter, bakit hindi itinuloy yung mga pending na trabaho at nag-adjourn ka agad sila? So, yun yung nakikita mo too much politics. Both sides, whether from the Gatchalian side or the Cayetano side, there's really too much politics here. So, it really affects the legislative work.
Between the two factions, what needs to be done to restore public trust in the Senate?
Honestly, if you're going to ask me for a more radical approach, they should just vacate all their position. And let us just elect new sets of senators kung pupwede lang. Kung pupwede lang talaga. Because all of them are basically, protecting their
Clean
own
slate, ano?
interests, leaning towards personalities, if you may. So nakaka-frustrate eh. And this is also a reflection on the kind of leaders that was elected both 2022 and 2025 elections. So sinisingil na tayo nung klase ng mga leader na meron tayo. Hindi na natin alam kung sino ba talaga yung nagsasabi ng totoo, sino ba yung mas mabuting narrative, may magandang framing. So wala na yung delikadesa. Nawala yung delikadesa at nawala yung malasakit para sa institusyon at para dun sa trabaho at taong bayan. We used to look at the Senate as, probably the other side or the last bastion of hope in terms of whatever legislative action if the House of Representatives had, lacking in terms of their legislative work, but look at the Senate right now and look at the kind of senators that we actually elected.
All right, well, thank you very much for sharing your insights with us this morning. That was political analyst Professor Eric De Torres.
Thank you.
All right, good morning. I'm Cheska Latancalo. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. And of course, we just wrapped up that interview with Professor Eric De Torres. And we also still have the Blue Ribbon
Yes,
Committee
it's still
hearing
ongoing today. Of course, chaired by Senator Erwin Tulfo. Right?
But don't go away. We will be taking a quick break. Stay tuned to One News.
Good morning, mga kapatid. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News.
Okay, so that's it for today's news. But before we go, what are your key takeaways from today's stories?
Well, of course, we are praying
Yes.
for our people there in Mindanao, dun sa mga affected nga nitong earthquake, 7.8, malakas po yan. And of course, nakaantabay tayo doon sa mga, because this is a developing story and hopefully maging safe. And although may mga buildings ngayon na nagtumbahan, diba, hopefully sana hindi na madagdagan yung casualty.
And President Bongbong Marcos already issued a statement and he asked people to heed the tsunami warning. And very important, your life is more important than anything left behind.
So that's a reminder to all our kapatids, no, especially those living in low-lying areas, to follow the orders of authorities, to stay alert, and maybe tomorrow we can discuss also the importance of checking the structural integrity of buildings, ano, especially during disasters like this. It's always important to be prepared, especially on the part of the government, and ensuring that lives are protected.
All right, that wraps up today's episode of Morning Matters. I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro.
We hope we've given you just the right start to your morning. I'm Cheska Litancalo.
Let's make the day matter. I'm Pauline Verzosa. We'll see you again tomorrow.
Kapatid, we are One News.
All sides,
all the time.
Liberty to say that, pero from what I know, from my personal knowledge, kasi ako po yung OIC ng Central Records Division, when all documents addressed to the Ombudsman or filed with the Office of the Ombudsman, usually under